The Harmony space station floated quietly in the dark between stars. Dr. Kale sat at his desk, looking at the strange message that had arrived that morning. It came from a planet called Earth, far away in a part of space most aliens avoided. "Rita, come look at this," he called to his friend. Dr. Rita walked over, her forearms carrying different data pads. She was from the peaceful Ilari people, known for their gentle nature and love of science. "What is it, Kale?" Kale pointed at his screen. "The humans sent us something: medical data, body scans, and biological studies. They want to share information about their species." Rita's large eyes widened. "Humans? But their planet is a Class 12 Deathworld. Nothing lives on those planets except monsters and killers." "That's what makes this interesting," Kale said. He was excited, like a child with a new toy. "They're offering peaceful contact. Maybe we were wrong about Deathworld species." Commander Blake walked into the lab at that moment. He was a Zoran, a warrior race with thick gray skin and sharp teeth. Unlike Kale and Rita, Blake did not trust easily. "What are you two talking about?" "The humans want to share their biological data," Rita explained. "Kale thinks it's a good sign." Blake's eyes narrowed. "Or it's a trap. Why would any species give away information about their bodies? That's military intelligence." Kale waved his hand. "You worry too much, Blake. This is science, not war. Look." He pressed a button, and the human data appeared on the big screen. What they saw made them all go quiet. The first file showed human bones. They were thick and heavy, much stronger than the bones of most space-traveling species. But that wasn't the strange part. The strange part was how they healed. "This can't be right," Rita whispered. "It says here that human bones can fix themselves completely in just weeks, and they become stronger after breaking." Kale pulled up more files. Human muscles showed the same pattern. They grew stronger when damaged. Human skin could heal from cuts that would leave permanent scars on other species. "Look at this," Blake said, pointing at another section. "Their pain tolerance levels. These numbers are impossible." The data showed that humans could function normally with injuries that would put most aliens in shock. They could lose significant amounts of blood and keep fighting. They could break bones and continue moving. Rita found the sleep studies. "They only need 6 to 8 hours of rest per day. Most species need 12 to 14 hours. And look here. They can stay awake for days if needed." But the real shock came when they opened the environmental data. "Their planet's gravity is 1.3 times standard," Kale read aloud. "Atmosphere is 21% oxygen. That's toxic levels for most species. Temperature ranges from freezing to over 50 degrees. Radiation levels that would kill us in hours." Blake stepped closer to the screen. "And they live there? Naturally?" "Not just live," Rita said, her voice shaking. "They evolved there. For millions of years. This isn't their limit. This is their starting point." Kale opened another file. It showed human athletic performance. Humans could run for hours without stopping. They could lift objects many times their body weight. They could survive in water, underground, in extreme heat, and in freezing cold. This one human, Rita pointed at a file, climbed the highest mountain on their planet. The air up there has almost no oxygen. The cold would freeze our blood. And he did it for fun. Blake was reading the military fitness reports. They train their soldiers by making them carry heavy weights for long distances. They run until their bodies want to quit, then they run more. They call it pushing through the pain. "That's not possible," Kale said. "When bodies are damaged, they stop working. It's basic biology." "Not human biology," Blake replied grimly. They spent hours reading more files. Humans could heal from diseases that would kill other species. They could adapt to new environments within a single generation. They could eat foods that were poisonous to most life forms. The psychological profiles were just as disturbing. When threatened, most species became afraid and tried to escape. Humans became angry and fought harder. When outnumbered, they didn't surrender. They became more creative and dangerous. "Look at this sport they play," Rita said, opening a video file. "They call it boxing. Two humans hit each other until one cannot continue. On the screen, two humans were punching each other in the face repeatedly. Blood was flowing, but they kept fighting. The crowd was cheering. And this one, Kyle added, they call it football. Hundreds of humans run into each other as hard as they can, for entertainment. Blake watched the video with growing alarm. They're enjoying this. They're not just surviving violence. They like it. The final file was the most shocking. It showed human history. Wars, disasters, plagues that killed millions. But every time, the remaining humans rebuilt and grew stronger. When their environment tried to kill them, they learned to control it. When diseases appeared, they created medicines. When they ran out of food, they learned to grow more. They don't just survive on their death world, Blake said slowly. They conquered it. Rita looked at the data one more time. These readings, about their stress response. When humans are in danger, their bodies produce chemicals that make them stronger, faster, and less sensitive to pain. They become better fighters when they're hurt. That goes against everything we know, Kyle said. Injury should make you weaker, not stronger. Blake walked to the communication panel. I need to report this to Federation Command. Wait, Kyle said. We should study this more. Think of what we could learn from them. Their medical knowledge alone could help millions of people. Or, Blake replied, it could help them destroy millions of people. Kyle, these aren't just tough aliens. These are living weapons that think they're being friendly. Rita looked at the data again. They sent us their weaknesses too. Look, they need water every few days. They need food regularly. They can't breathe in space without help. Those aren't weaknesses, Blake said. Those are just minor inconveniences for a species like this. As they debated, none of them noticed the small recording device hidden in the corner of the lab. Miles away on a dark ship, Admiral Voss of the Hegemony listened to every word they said. The Admiral's eyes glowed with interest as he heard the humans described. His species had ruled this part of space for centuries through superior technology and ruthless tactics. They had never met anything they couldn't defeat or control. But these humans sounded different. They sounded dangerous. Admiral Voss turned to his aide. Get me everything we can find about this planet Earth, and start preparing the fleet. Sir? The aide asked. We have a new threat to deal with, Voss replied, still listening to the scientists' conversation. And this time, we're going to stop it before it starts. On the Harmony station, Dr. Kale was still excited about the possibilities of human friendship. He had no idea that his research was about to start the largest war the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Voss stood in the war room of his massive battleship Dominator. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps, fleet positions, and most importantly, the stolen data from the Harmony station. His red eyes glowed as he studied the information about humans. Around the long metal table sat his war council. General Torres, a scarred veteran of 100 battles, tapped his claws nervously on the table. Dr. Nash, the Hegemony's top military scientist, had spent 3 days analyzing the human data. Her face was pale with worry. Tell me again, Voss said in his deep voice. What makes these humans so special? Dr. Nash activated the holographic display. A human body appeared in the air, slowly rotating. Admiral, these creatures are unlike anything we've ever encountered. Their biology is impossible. Explain, Voss commanded. Nash pointed at the floating human image. Look at their bone structure. When we break a bone, we become weak and helpless. When they break a bone, it heals back stronger than before. Their bodies learn from damage. General Torres leaned forward. What about their pain tolerance? That's the worst part, Nash replied. Most species stop fighting when they feel pain. Pain tells us to surrender, to preserve our lives. But humans? Pain makes them angry. It makes them fight harder. Voss studied the data with growing interest. His species, the Hegemony, had conquered dozens of worlds by using superior technology and fear. They would arrive with massive fleets, threaten total destruction, and watch civilization surrender rather than face annihilation. Show me their military capabilities, Voss ordered. Nash changed the display. Now it showed human soldiers in training. They prepare for war by putting themselves through torture. They run until their bodies want to collapse. Then they run more. They carry heavy weights for hours. They fight each other to practice combat. The War Council watched in silence as human soldiers crawled through mud, climbed over walls, and fought with knives. What shocked them most was that the humans seemed to enjoy it. Look at this, Nash continued. She showed footage of human sports. They hit each other with sticks while moving at high speed on ice. They tackle each other violently on grass fields. They punch each other in rings while crowds cheer. Violence is entertainment for them. General Torres shifted uncomfortably in his chair. What about their response to overwhelming force? Surely they surrender when facing impossible odds. Nash's expression grew darker. That's what we hoped to find. Instead, we found this. The upper display changed to show human history. When faced with impossible odds, humans don't surrender. They become more creative, more desperate, more dangerous. The screen showed ancient human battles, small groups of humans defeating much larger armies through cleverness and refusing to give up. It showed humans fighting giant animals with simple weapons. It showed humans surviving in conditions that should have killed them. This battle here, Nash pointed to one historical record. 300 humans fought against thousands of enemies. They knew they would die, but they fought anyway. They held their position for days, buying time for their people to escape. Voss was quiet for a long moment, then he asked, "What about their technology? Surely they're primitives compared to us." "Their technology is less advanced," Nash admitted. "But that might not matter. Look at how they use what they have." The game display showed human engineering projects, cities built in impossible places, on mountains, in deserts, on frozen wastelands. Machines that could work in conditions that would destroy hegemony equipment. They don't just adapt to their environment, Nash explained. They change it to suit their needs. They've turned their entire Deathworld into a garden. They've made the impossible into their home. General Torres stood up and began pacing. "So what you're telling us is that these humans are nearly indestructible. They get stronger when hurt, they enjoy violence, and they never surrender?" "That's correct, sir." "And they live on a planet so dangerous that we classify it as uninhabitable?" "Yes, sir." "And they've somehow made that planet into their paradise?" Nash nodded grimly. "Yes, General." Voss activated his personal communicator. "Get me Commander Webb from Intelligence." A few minutes later, a thin alien with large eyes appeared on the screen. "Yes, Admiral?" "Webb, I want you to run combat simulations. Assume we're fighting humans with the biological data we've acquired. Use our standard invasion tactics." "Right away, sir. What scenario should I test?" "Start with orbital bombardment followed by ground invasion. Standard overwhelming force doctrine." Webb's image disappeared. The War Council waited in tense silence. 20 minutes later, Webb returned and his face was white with fear. "Admiral," Webb said, his voice shaking, "the results are disturbing." "Show me." The display changed to show battle simulations. Hegemony ships attacked human positions from space. The humans took cover and survived bombardments that should have killed them. When hegemony troops landed, the humans fought back with weapons that seemed primitive but were surprisingly effective. "The worst part," Webb explained, "is what happens when we wound them. In our simulations, wounded humans don't retreat. They become more dangerous. A human with broken bones continues fighting. A human who's bleeding doesn't surrender. He gets angry." The simulation showed human soldiers fighting with injuries that would put any hegemony warrior in a medical bay. They kept coming, kept attacking, kept refusing to die. "What about when we outnumber them 10-1? Voss asked. "They don't panic," Webb replied. "They use tactics we've never seen before. They hide, they ambush, they strike from unexpected angles. Being outnumbered makes them more creative, not less effective." General Torres slammed his fist on the table. "This is madness. No species behaves this way." "Deathworld species do," Dr. Nash said quietly. Admiral, we need to understand something. These humans didn't just survive on their planet. They became the top predator on a world full of monsters. They're not just tough, they're apex hunters. Voss stared at the data for a long time. His species had ruled through fear and superior firepower for centuries. They had never encountered anything they couldn't defeat or intimidate into submission. But these humans were different. They seemed to be everything the hegemony was not. Stronger when hurt, braver when outnumbered, more dangerous when threatened. Admiral, General Torres said carefully, what are your orders? Voss stood up slowly. His decision would change the galaxy forever. Gentlemen, we face a choice. We can try to make allies of these humans hoping they remain peaceful, or we can eliminate them before they become a threat. What do you recommend? Dr. Nash asked. Voss looked at the human data one more time. He saw creatures that thrived on conflict, that grew stronger through struggle, that never gave up no matter the odds. I've spent my life studying warfare, Voss said. I know what happens when you let a potential enemy grow strong. These humans may seem peaceful now, but look at their biology. Look at their history. They're natural-born warriors pretending to be scientists. He turned to face his war council. We destroy them now, while they're still confined to one planet, before they spread across the galaxy, before they become unstoppable. General Torres nodded. I agree, Admiral. Better to fight them now than face them when they have starships and weapons to match their biology. Dr. Nash, Voss commanded, prepare detailed analysis of human weaknesses. General Torres, begin mobilizing the entire hegemony fleet. Commander Webb, start planning the assault. How large a force, sir? Torres asked. Voss looked at the simulation. Results one more time. Everything we have. This isn't just another conquest, this is survival. Either we destroy them, or someday they'll destroy us. As his officers hurried to carry out orders, Admiral Voss remained alone in the war room. He stared at the image of a human soldier, wounded but still fighting, refusing to surrender even when death was certain. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Voss felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Not fear of losing a battle, but fear of what would happen if these creatures ever decided to fight back. He was about to start the largest military operation in galactic history, all because some scientists had shared their medical data in friendship. The humans had no idea what was coming for them. Ambassador Lisa Miller stood on the bridge of the spacecraft Pioneer, looking out at the stars through the large window. She had dreamed of this moment her entire life, humanity's first official contact with alien civilizations. Her team had spent months preparing for peaceful negotiations. Approaching the crossroads station now, Captain Tom announced from his command chair. He was a calm man with gray hair, chosen for this mission because of his steady nerves and diplomatic experience. Dr. Alex Chen worked at a science console monitoring their equipment. All systems green. The translation software is working perfectly. We should be able to communicate with any species we meet. Communications officer. Sam Rodriguez looked up from his station. I'm receiving docking instructions from the station. They're directing us to Bay 7. Lisa smoothed her blue diplomatic uniform and checked her appearance one last time. Earth's leaders had chosen her carefully. She spoke multiple languages, had negotiated peace treaties between nations, and had a warm smile that put people at ease. Remember, everyone, Lisa said to her crew. We're not just representing ourselves today. We're representing all of humanity. Let's make a good first impression. The Pioneer docked smoothly with the crossroads station. This neutral meeting place was built specifically for first contact situations. It had special areas designed to accommodate different species' needs for atmosphere, gravity, and temperature. As they walked through the station's corridors, the human crew marveled at the alien architecture. Everything was curved and flowing, unlike the straight lines humans preferred. Strange symbols covered the walls, and the lighting was softer than Earth normal. The meeting room is just ahead, Sam said, reading his translator device. They entered a large circular room with a dome-shaped ceiling. At the center was a round table with multiple types of chairs to accommodate different alien body shapes. Lisa had studied the files. She expected to meet peaceful scientists and diplomats just like herself. Instead, she found herself facing Admiral Voss. The alien commander was impressive and terrifying. He stood nearly 8 feet tall with dark, gray skin and red eyes that seemed to glow. His uniform was military, not diplomatic, and several armed guards stood behind him. "Welcome, humans," Voss said in perfect English. His voice was deep and cold. "I am Admiral Voss of the Hegemony Fleet." Lisa stepped forward with her practiced diplomatic smile. "Thank you for meeting with us, Admiral. I'm Ambassador Lisa Miller, representing Earth and humanity. We're honored to make first contact with your people." Voss did not return her smile. "Sit down, Ambassador. We have important matters to discuss." The tension in the room was immediate. This was not the friendly, scientific exchange Lisa had expected. Captain Tom moved slightly closer to her, his hand resting near his sidearm. Dr. Alex activated his recording equipment, and Sam prepared the emergency communications. "Admiral," Lisa began carefully, "we come in peace. Earth sent us here to establish friendly relations with the galactic community. We've already shared our biological and medical data as a gesture of goodwill." "Yes," Voss replied. "We received that data. It was very educational." Something in his tone made Lisa uncomfortable. "We hope it helps promote understanding between our species. Scientific cooperation benefits everyone." Voss leaned forward across the table. "Ambassador Miller, let me be direct. Your species represents a significant threat to galactic security. We've studied your biology, your history, and your capabilities. We cannot allow such a dangerous species to spread beyond your home system." Lisa blinked in confusion. "I'm sorry. I don't understand. Dangerous? We've never attacked anyone. We're here seeking peace." "Your intentions may be peaceful now," Voss said, "but your nature is not. You come from a death world that would kill most galactic species in hours. You've evolved to be living weapons. Your bodies heal from damage that would be fatal to others. You fight harder when wounded, and you never surrender even when facing certain death." Captain Tom spoke up. "Admiral, those are survival traits, not weapons. We evolved them because our planet was dangerous, not because we wanted to hurt others. The result is the same," Voss replied coldly. "You're apex predators pretending to be diplomats. We've run combat simulations based on your biological data. The results are unacceptable." Dr. Alex looked confused. "Combat simulations? Why would you need those for a peaceful first contact?" Voss ignored the question. "Ambassador Miller, I'm going to make this very simple. Humanity has 2 choices. You can accept relocation to secure facilities where you'll be monitored and contained, or you can be eliminated as a threat to galactic security." The room went dead silent. Lisa felt her heart racing, but she kept her voice steady. "Admiral, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. We're not threats to anyone. We're explorers, scientists, diplomats. We want to learn from other species and share what we know." "Your biological data tells a different story," Voss said. He activated a holographic display showing human anatomy. "Look at this. Bone density triple that of most species. Muscle fiber designed for maximum power and endurance. Pain tolerance levels that suggest you can fight through injuries that would incapacitate others." "Those are just adaptations to our environment," Lisa protested. "Adaptations that make you perfect soldiers," Voss countered. "Your history shows constant warfare. You fight each other for practice. You create sports based on violence. You volunteer for military service in numbers that suggest you enjoy combat." Captain Tom stepped forward. "Admiral, every species has conflicts. That doesn't make us monsters." "Most species have conflicts they try to avoid," Voss replied. "You have conflicts you seem to seek out. Your entertainment includes watching people hurt each other. Your training involves deliberate suffering. Your heroes are warriors, not peacemakers." Lisa realized that everything they considered normal, human behavior, was being interpreted as evidence of aggression. Admiral, please, give us a chance to prove we can be peaceful neighbors. We don't want war with anyone. What you want doesn't matter, Voss said, standing up. What matters is what you are. You're Deathworld predators with intelligence and technology. Allowing you to spread across the galaxy would be suicide for every other species. You're making a mistake, Dr. Alex said urgently. We're offering friendship, scientific cooperation, cultural exchange. We're offering survival, Voss replied. Accept containment or face elimination. Those are your only choices. Lisa looked around the room at her crew. Tom's hand was now openly on his weapon. Sam was trying to send an emergency message to Earth. Alex was still recording everything, hoping someone would learn from this disaster. I cannot accept those terms, Lisa said firmly. Humanity will not surrender its freedom based on fears and misunderstandings. Voss nodded as if he had expected this answer. Then you've made your choice. He spoke into his communicator. All ships, prepare to engage. The humans have rejected our generous offer. Wait, Lisa called out, but alarms were already sounding throughout the station. Captain Tom grabbed Lisa's arm. We need to leave. Now. They ran from the meeting room as hegemony soldiers moved to block their escape. The corridors of the peaceful station had become a battlefield. Tom drew his sidearm and fired at pursuing guards while Sam frantically tried to reach their ship. Pioneer, this is the away team, Sam shouted into his communicator. Emergency departure. We're under attack. They reached the docking bay to find hegemony ships surrounding their vessel. The Pioneer's engines were already warming up, but enemy vessels were powering their weapons. Get us out of here, Tom yelled as they rushed aboard. The Pioneer undocked and immediately came under fire. The ship shook violently as alien weapons struck their hull. Warning lights flashed, and damage reports flooded in. Hull breach on Deck 3, someone reported. Engines at 60%, called another crew member. But they kept flying. Even with systems failing and crew members injured, the humans refused to surrender. They fought their way clear of the station using every trick Tom had learned in Earth's military. As they limped away from Crossroads Station, Dr. Alex made an observation that chilled everyone aboard. They weren't just studying our biology for science. They were looking for ways to kill us. Lisa watched the alien fleet growing larger on their sensors as more ships arrived. Earth had sent them seeking friends and had found enemies instead. Send a message to Earth, she ordered. Tell them first contact has failed. Tell them we're not alone in the galaxy, and we're not welcome here. Captain Tom checked their damage. Reports. We'll make it home, but barely. They let us go, Lisa. They wanted us to carry a message. What message? Tom looked at the growing enemy fleet behind them. That they're coming for us. All of us. The Pioneer jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing toward Earth with news that would change human civilization forever. Behind them, Admiral Voss watched them go and smiled. Soon, he thought, the humans would learn what happened to species that refused the hegemony's generous offers. President Walker sat in the emergency meeting room deep beneath the White House. Around the table were the most powerful leaders on Earth: prime ministers, generals, scientists, and intelligence chiefs. The news from the Pioneer had reached Earth 3 days ago, and the world had not been the same since. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, President Walker said, looking at the report in his hands. We sent peaceful diplomats to make friends, and instead we found aliens, who want to kill us because we're too dangerous to live. Ambassador Lisa, still recovering from her injuries, nodded grimly. That's exactly right, Mr. President. They've studied our biology and decided we're a threat that needs to be eliminated. General Park, head of the newly formed Earth Defense Command, leaned forward. How long do we have? Captain Tom, also wounded, but present, answered. Based on what we saw, they were already mobilizing a large fleet. I'd estimate we have weeks, maybe a month before they arrive. The room fell silent. World leaders who had spent their careers dealing with human conflicts now faced something none of them had ever imagined: an alien invasion by enemies who considered humanity too dangerous to exist. Dr. Maya Singh, Earth's top xenobiologist, had been studying the data recovered from the Crossroads Station. I've been analyzing their biological information, she said. The irony is that they're afraid of us, but they're actually much more fragile than we are. Explain, President Walker requested. Dr. Maya activated a holographic display. Most hegemony species evolved on what we would consider paradise worlds. Low gravity, perfect climate, no dangerous predators. They've never had to develop the survival traits we consider normal. She showed comparative data between humans and various alien species. Their bones are hollow like bird bones, lighter but much more fragile. Their pain tolerance is extremely low. What we would consider a minor injury would put them in shock. What about their technology? Asked Prime Minister Chen of the Asian Coalition. Superior to ours in many ways, Dr. Maya admitted. But here's what's interesting. It's designed for their physiology, not ours. Their ships have low gravity, their weapons are calibrated for their biology, their tactics assume their enemies think like they do. General Park studied the data carefully. So you're saying they've prepared to fight other aliens, not humans? Exactly. They expect their enemies to surrender when faced with overwhelming force. They expect injured enemies to retreat. They expect rational behavior based on self-preservation. Captain Tom laughed, but there was no humor in it. They have no idea what they're getting into. President Walker stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the lights of the city, millions of people going about their lives, unaware that alien warships were coming to destroy their world. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, I'm about to make an announcement that will change human civilization forever. We're going to tell the world that we're not alone in the universe, and that we're about to be attacked by aliens who consider us too dangerous to live. The panic will be enormous, warned the Secretary General of the United Nations. Maybe, Walker replied, or maybe it will be the thing that finally unites humanity like nothing else ever has. Within hours, President Walker addressed the world. Every television, radio, and internet connection on Earth carried his message. He told the truth. Aliens existed. They were coming to Earth, and humanity had to prepare for war. The reaction was exactly what Dr. Maya had predicted about human nature. Instead of panic and surrender, there was anger and determination. Recruitment. Centers were overwhelmed with volunteers. Factories began converting to military production without being ordered to do so. Scientists started working around the clock to adapt human technology for space warfare. General Park found himself in command of the largest military mobilization in human history. We have advantages they don't expect, he told his staff. They think in terms of overwhelming force and quick surrender. We think in terms of guerrilla warfare and never giving up. The space program, which had been exploring the solar system slowly, suddenly became humanity's lifeline. Every rocket, every satellite, every space station was converted for military use. Captain Jake Rodriguez, Tom's younger brother, found himself commanding the hastily assembled Earth Defense Fleet. The ships were a mix of military vessels, converted civilian craft, and anything else that could mount weapons and survive in space. It's not much to look at, Jake told his crew as they looked at their fleet, but it's what we have, and we're going to make it count. Dr. Maya worked with military engineers to create weapons and tactics suited for fighting aliens. Remember, she told them, they're expecting us to behave like other aliens. When they damage our ships, they expect us to retreat. When they wound our people, they expect us to surrender. What do we do instead? Asked a young engineer. What humans always do, Maya replied. We get angry and we fight back harder. Meanwhile, intelligence services work to understand hegemony technology and tactics. What they discovered was both encouraging and terrifying. They have massive fleets, reported Intelligence Chief Adams. Thousands of ships, advanced weapons, shields we can barely understand. In a straight fight, they'll crush us. But, General Park asked, but they've never fought anyone like us. Every species they've conquered surrendered when faced with superior force. They don't know how to fight an enemy that refuses to quit. Across Earth, humanity prepared for war in ways the aliens couldn't imagine. Nuclear weapons were modified for space combat. Industrial facilities went underground. Children learned emergency procedures while their parents built weapons. The most surprising development came from an unexpected source: Earth's criminals and outcasts. Gang members, mercenaries, and soldiers of fortune volunteered in massive numbers. "Why are you here?" General Park asked a group of former gang leaders who had enlisted. "You said aliens think we're too dangerous to live," one of them replied. "Time to prove them right." As the weeks passed, long-range sensors detected the approaching hegemony fleet. It was larger than anything humans had imagined. Thousands of ships, enough firepower to sterilize continents. Captain Jake received the final intelligence report as Earth's defenders took their positions. "They've brought enough ships to destroy 10 planets like Earth," his intelligence officer reported. "Admiral Voss is confident this will be quick and easy." Jake looked at Earth's small defense fleet, a few hundred ships against thousands of alien vessels. By any rational measure, it was hopeless. But Jake had studied human history, and he knew that humans were rarely rational when defending their homes. "Send a message to all ships," Jake ordered. "Tell them what we're facing. Tell them the odds. Tell them that the aliens think we're too dangerous to live, and they're probably right." On the surface of Earth, President Walker watched the alien fleet approaching on his screens. Every nation had put aside old conflicts to face this common threat. Humanity was united for the first time in its history. "Sir," his aide asked, "do you think we can win?" Walker thought about everything he knew about human nature. Throughout history, humans had faced impossible odds and somehow survived. They had endured ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, and countless wars. They had always found a way to keep going. "I don't know if we can win," Walker replied, "but I know we won't surrender. And sometimes that's enough." Above Earth, Admiral Voss prepared for what he expected to be an easy victory. His massive fleet was the largest military force ever assembled. He had studied human biology and tactics. He was ready for anything humans could throw at him. What he wasn't ready for was what happened when a Deathworld decided to fight back. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and both sides would learn things about war that they had never imagined possible. Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominator as the massive hegemony fleet approached Earth. Around him floated thousands of warships, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Through the view screen he could see the small blue planet that housed the creatures he had come to destroy. "Fleet status report," Voss commanded. "All ships ready, Admiral," reported his aide. 8,000 vessels in attack formation. The human defense fleet has been detected. Approximately 400 ships of mixed design. Voss smiled coldly. 20-1 odds in his favor. This would be over quickly. "Admiral," called his sensor officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through." The screen showed Captain Jake Rodriguez standing on the bridge of his ship. Behind him, Jake could see his small crew working frantically. At their stations, the human looked tired but determined. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Fleet," Jake said. "You are approaching our home system with obvious hostile intent. Turn back now, and we can discuss this peacefully." Voss laughed. "Captain, look around you. I have 8,000 ships to your 400. Your planet is surrounded. Surrender now, and I promise your deaths will be quick." Jake's expression didn't change. "Admiral, you've studied our biology, right? You know we come from a death world?" "Of course. That's why you must be destroyed." "Then you should know," Jake replied, "that everything on our planet that tried to kill us is now extinct. We're still here." The transmission ended. Voss shook his head at human arrogance. In a few hours, these creatures would understand the price of defying the hegemony. "All ships," Voss broadcast to his fleet, "begin the attack. Target their defense platforms first, then move to planetary bombardment. Show them the futility of resistance." The Battle of Earth began with a massive barrage from the hegemony fleet. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked toward Earth's orbital defenses. The space around the planet lit up like a deadly fireworks display. To Voss's satisfaction, many human defense platforms were destroyed in the first wave. The small Earth ships scattered, some taking heavy damage. It was proceeding exactly as his battle plans predicted. But then something unexpected happened. The damaged human ships didn't retreat. Instead, they pressed forward into the alien fleet, firing everything they had. Ships with hull breaches and failing systems continued attacking as if nothing was wrong. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported with confusion, "the human vessels are not withdrawing despite severe damage. One of their ships just rammed our cruiser Victory after losing all weapons." Voss frowned. "Tactical error. They're panicking." But as the battle continued, it became clear this wasn't panic. When hegemony ships were damaged, they pulled back to make repairs. When human ships were damaged, they became more aggressive. "Captain, Jake's ship Defiance had lost half its weapons and was leaking atmosphere, but Jake kept pressing the attack. Hull breach on Deck 5, his damage control officer reported. "Seal it and keep fighting," Jake replied calmly. "Sir, we've lost main power to the forward guns. Switch to backup power. Route everything through the secondary systems." His crew worked with desperate efficiency, making repairs while under fire. When conventional weapons failed, they improvised. When systems broke down, they found alternatives. On the surface of Earth, the planetary defense systems joined the battle. Nuclear missiles launched from hidden silos, not aimed at ships but at empty space where they detonated to create radiation fields that disrupted alien sensors. General Park coordinated the ground-based attacks from his command center. "Remember," he told his commanders, "they expect us to target their ships. Instead, target their ability to see and communicate." The strategy worked. Hegemony ships found themselves flying blind through clouds of radioactive debris, unable to coordinate properly with their fleet. But the real shock came when the first boarding actions began. Hegemony Marines successfully breached several human ships expecting quick victories against the wounded crews. Instead, they found themselves fighting enemies that seemed to get stronger when hurt. Commander Eve Thompson was leading the defense of her damaged cruiser when aliens broke through the hull. She had a broken arm and was bleeding from multiple cuts, but she fought like a wild animal. "Come on," she shouted at her crew, most of whom were also injured. "They want to see how dangerous humans are? Let's show them." The alien Marines were shocked. In their experience, wounded enemies surrendered or collapsed. These humans fought harder when hurt, as if pain made them angry instead of weak. Admiral Voss received reports from across the battle that made no sense. "Sir, Boarding Party 7 reports human defenders are continuing to fight despite fatal injuries. Boarding Party 12 says humans are using improvised weapons made from ship components." "That's impossible," Voss replied. But his sensors showed the truth. Human ships that should have been destroyed were still fighting. Human crews that should have surrendered were making desperate attacks that sometimes succeeded. The turning point came when Captain Jake led a suicide run against the Hegemony command ship. His vessel was barely holding together, with multiple hull breaches and failing life support. "Sir," his navigator said, "we can't survive another hit." "Then we better make this one count," Jake replied. He aimed his dying ship directly at Admiral Voss's flagship. Voss watched in horror as the human ship, trailing fire and debris, accelerated toward him. "Destroy that ship," he ordered. But Jake had shut down everything except engines and navigation. There were no shields to target, no weapons to disable. The human ship was now just a missile guided by a madman who refused to give up. The Defiance struck the Dominator at full speed, tearing through the alien ship's hull like paper. The explosion damaged dozens of nearby Hegemony vessels and threw their formation into chaos. But Jake had ejected in an escape pod at the last second. As he drifted in space waiting for rescue, he smiled at the confusion in the alien fleet. That's when the second wave of human ships arrived. These weren't military vessels. They were civilian craft converted for war. Cargo ships carrying nuclear weapons, passenger liners bristling with improvised guns, even luxury yachts modified for combat. "This is President Walker," came a transmission from Earth. "To all human vessels, show them what happens when someone threatens our home." Admiral Voss realized with growing horror that he hadn't been fighting Earth's military. He had been fighting their first line of defense. Now their entire civilian population was joining the battle. The space around Earth became a nightmare of desperate human attacks. Ships that had no business being in combat fought with creativity and fury that overwhelmed hegemony tactical computers. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported with panic in his voice, "we're losing ships faster than projected. The humans are using tactics not in our database." Voss looked at his casualty reports. He had expected to lose perhaps a dozen ships to human desperation. Instead, he had lost hundreds to human ingenuity and refusal to surrender. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving surrender requests from multiple ship commanders. They say they can't continue fighting enemies that won't die." For the first time in his military career, Admiral Voss considered retreat. His species had conquered the galaxy through superior technology and overwhelming force. They had never faced enemies that fought harder when wounded, that turned civilian ships into weapons, that treated impossible odds as merely another challenge. "All ships," Voss broadcast reluctantly, "begin withdrawal to safe distance. We need to reassess our strategy." As the hegemony fleet pulled back, Captain Jake was rescued by a human ship. He watched the alien retreat from his hospital bed and shook his head in amazement. "They studied our biology," he told the doctor treating his wounds, "but they never understood what it meant. We don't just survive on our Deathworld, we conquered it." On Earth, President Walker addressed the world once again. "The alien fleet is retreating, but this isn't over. They'll be back, and next time they'll bring more ships." "What do we do?" asked a reporter. Walker smiled grimly. "What humans always do. We prepare for the next fight, and we make sure the galaxy understands that if you want to threaten Earth, you better bring everything you have. Because we will." Meanwhile, on ships throughout the galaxy, news of the Battle of Earth spread quickly. Species that had surrendered to the hegemony without a fight heard about creatures that fought back and won. Dr. Kale, still aboard the Harmony research station, watched the news reports with wonder. "They didn't just fight," he told Rita. "They won. Against impossible odds, they actually won." "What happens now?" Rita asked. Kyle looked at the data showing human ships already beginning to explore beyond their solar system. "Now the galaxy learns what we should have understood from the beginning. Humans weren't just survivors of a death world, they were its masters. And now they're coming to teach the rest of us what that means." The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun, and it started with a simple lesson. Never underestimate the species that turned the most dangerous planet in the galaxy into their home.